Hi and welcome to our program. Today we are checking out Museum Jorn here in Silkeborg and its current exhibitions. So let's go for a guided tour.
And then here we have, for some reason, we have our piano Forte here today, which is usually not here, but maybe there was a concert or something, who knows. This is one of the central pieces behind the piano Forte. This is called Stlingrad, okay. And the place that never was, that never were, and it's a work that it's by far his largest painting. Mm-hmm. And he starts working on it in 1957, okay. And he paints on it the last time in 1972. So in those 15 years, it's already exhibited several times. Mm-hmm. It was in Cuba in 1967 on a cultural conference, where it was also printed on a stamp. So when you see the stamp, the painting looks different from now than it does here. It was also sold in the meantime, and Jorn was visiting the guy who bought it to finish it off, but he never managed to finish it, and finally he bought it back to his museum in Silkeborg because it just became too important for him. Mm-hmm. And the whole story of Stlingrad originates from the Second World War, where Stlingrad is one of the strongholds in Russia, where the Red Army is fighting the German army, mm-hmm. and the battle just continues for months and months, and civilians die and soldiers die, and then the winter comes, and there's not enough food. People start eating each other behind the walls. So what this painting really shows us what happens when Jorn is working with a human being. He's working with himself. He's working with everybody and with emotions. And that's maybe why he said that he never really finished it, because it's something you can continue to add onto a canvas when life is in its most extremes. Then what happens? What are we able to do as humans? And again, we have this snowy landscape. We have the snow. We also have the bitterness. We have the agony. We have the ultramarine again. Like this very strong blue pigment, color pigment that really makes it extremely cold. We have something here that looks like the Star of David, but it is not the Star of David. But it looks like it, right? Which is also a symbol from the Holocaust during the Second World War. And the extinction of, or at least the Nazis, their concentration camps, etc. And then we have all these other figures. We have like something here that looks like an American cartoon from the time, but we also have, like up here, we have something that looks like a dog, or is it a pig? And then you have a human being here. You have a body, and it's opening up its mouth and it's eating it, right? And it all came from Jorn's housekeeper, a practical guy who helped him out in his house in Albisola. Okay. And he was an Italian, Roberto, and he had been participating in the battles at Stlingrad on the German side, because they were allies, the Italians and the Germans. Okay. And he told Jorn about these battles and about what happened into details for the first time in his life. He shared these stories with Jorn as they were renovating his house, and that's where it came from. That's where it all started. This idea of making a Nordic Garnica, Picasso's major piece Garnica, from the Spanish town with the same name. Jorn saw Garnica in '38, shortly before it was revealed to the public, and was completely fascinated by it. But later on, he thought it was too figurative. There wasn't enough space for you to use your imagination in it. So when he started painting Stlingrad, that was where he wanted to go. He wanted to make a Garnica, but the way he saw it, as he wanted it. So where there would be a lot of space for the imagination.
Yeah, and I just noticed that there's several dates
Yeah. So he
there.
just adds a year on it every time he works on it.
Yeah.
And then we also have, there also is there also is some prints from his shoes here, his boots on it, because he worked on it on the floor initially. So he walked on the canvas.
Yeah, this is really big, a bit.
It's a very strong piece, actually, and this is one of the pieces where people also tend to get a little dizzy when they're looking at it for a long time.
Yeah, but it's fun because like you would never guess what it was about if you just saw it.
No.
But it's so clear after you mention.
Yeah, then all these symbols starts to appear, right? We also have something that looks like a swastika down here. But again, it could be so many other things. It's very ambiguous. Then we have all these dark squares looking like, dead eyes or skulls or houses, simply, a city that's without electricity.
Yeah,
a
like
ruined
ghost city.
A ghost city, yeah. It's a very powerful piece. And then we have another track that we have not yet been focusing on enough because we simply lack space compared to our collection at the museum.
Yeah.
But a few years back in 2016, the museum received a major donation from the second. We have Jorn and we have Per Kirkeby as very big international Danish painters that really made it to the, made it. And so we received a donation from Per Kirkeby himself, who donated his entire archive to the museum, which also really boosted our number of artworks and objects in the collection. So we are above 30,000 now.
30,000.
It's a very huge collection. So we have storages everywhere, and unfortunately we're not able to exhibit so much of it because we lack space. But we are working on a new museum. So hopefully that will help us solve that challenge eventually. But we have a few of his works in here. When we received the donation, we opened an archive, which is an open research library where researchers can come who are scholars of Per Kirkeby and studying him can go there, and then they have access to some of the material from the archive and the library, his library, etc.
Okay.
And then we also last year opened this space here. This is actually where Stlingrad used to be, right here, and then just with a bench and then nothing else in the room. But now we've had to compromise a bit on that. So now we have Kirkeby here, and we have his depictions of nature and interpretations of nature and of the landscape, the Nordic landscape in particular. It's quite some interesting pieces, actually. This one from 2001 is also quite central in his production. He has his first stroke in year 2000, and is a bit like Jorn, actually. When Jorn is hospitalized and with the tuberculosis, Jorn also all of a sudden realizes that he's actually mortal. Yeah. And the same thing happens with Per Kirkeby. So all of a sudden he starts also working with Christian motives or motives from the mythologies, not because he's Christian, but or because he believes in God in a Christian sense, but more because he starts working with these universal themes of life. And this one is one of the signs from that era. It's a fallen tree in a wood, but it's also the beam in the cross from the crucifixion that's coming over. So he starts working with these universal themes where he can kind of connect the cultural history and the myths of the international myth that's really creating who we are and how we think and the way we see moral and ethics today with nature, with something that's universal. He was a geologist of education, so we always have these kind of different layerings. We have these different kind of patterns and movements and energies that's working in the nature. Yeah. They're really interesting pieces. Per Kirkeby. Unfortunately, we haven't got so many up now, but we have a few central pieces.
These seems like made by completely different people.
Yeah, they're quite different, right? This is also a younger artist. This is from 1975.
Okay. Yes.
And where he also starts to experiment with bricks. This is his earliest
this
brick
is
sculpture
everything.
here. Yeah, so that's the frame actually.
I thought it okay.
So we built this one when we exhibited, when we made
and
this
is
exhibition.
Not a canvas.
No, it's
like a wall.
Yeah, it's like a wall. It's
Yeah, because it does remind a bit of graffiti.
Yeah, it does, and you also have, where the paint has been standing, the paint buckets, and this is shortly after he was part of the experimental school, the X school, that he was one of the main artists in for a period of time, the Kjerg.
Yeah. It's fun how he left the marks.
Yeah.
And he didn't try to cover it up or anything.
It's just part of the process.
Yeah.
But they're quite different. We tried to hang them here without the frame, but realized that they really need their frame because that's part of the work. So we had to build this one for the work.
Okay.
And then, so, yeah. It looks very permanent, but we'll probably have to tear it down eventually.
Oh.
The installation when we're moving things around again next time.
Yeah.
But they're interesting pieces, and this is interesting because he starts working with bricks, and in the 80s he's doing a lot of brick sculptures, and that becomes one of his first sort of trademarks. That's the brick sculpture.
Yeah, this is nice. It's so experimental. You don't really see this so often. I mean, at least about one artist only. You don't really see the whole process.
That's true. And it has these three very different temperaments, right? It also has like this kind of religious, church-like altarpiece thing to it, right? When it's positioned like this and with the...
like the position in the altar when you
enter
enter
like
the
an
church.
Altarpiece, right? It's not an altarpiece, but it has these references, and he's also playing with that in it.
Yeah.
As a reference and maybe also a bit as a provocation, who knows? And then it has, of course, these three towerings there on top of it, of the frame. That also adds some, architectural heaviness to it, so to speak.
Yeah.
So that was just a short detour to Per Kirkeby, who's also an important part of the collection. And now I suggest that we can just move along. We can see some of we have a small exhibition with the experimental school. They're also a branch of our collection, and then we can go to the special exhibition.
Yes. This is really like a maze.
Yeah, it's totally a maze, yeah. So this is where we have a few pieces from the experimental school. We have this aluminium sculpture by Paul Garnica, who's one of the leading figures of that art movement, which really started as an alternative to the established Royal Academy of Fine Arts in Copenhagen. And of saying, well, artists doesn't have to have, these degrees to be artists. They just need to work together, collaborate.
Yeah. Are those strings?
Yeah, they're strings. Yeah. By Peter Louis Jensen.
Is it how he did the circle?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And just,
I
like
just
this.
Left there, so the process is just still very visible in it, right?
Yeah.
It's called a structure plate. It's from 1965. And that's where Kjerg is also, when he's also introduced to the group, actually a few years before that, he started working with them. But they are very experimental, and they're working with pop art, they're working with so many different ways of expression.
Yeah. That's super interesting.
Yeah. It is. It is.
Yeah, I really like the colors.
Yeah. It's Paul Garnica. Yeah. Yeah. He worked a lot with letters. He actually made this big installation at Herlev Hospital in Copenhagen. Back then it was the tallest building in Denmark when they built it. And Paul Garnis, he was commissioned to go crazy on the entire interior of that hospital, this huge hospital. So it's quite worth a visit today if you're ever in Copenhagen. Go and check out that hospital, because it's like one big Paul Garnis installation, and it has these colors and these
the letters everywhere.
Everywhere, and and the circles. And this is Per Kirkeby, some of his early stuff.
What is this?
This one is also Paul Garnis. It's a sculpture.
Yeah, I'm trying to see something. It just reminds me of body parts.
Yeah.
But I don't know, a bit of a year or something, but not very clear. Like
no. Or some avant-garde cake, you know.
This is very random.
It's
also
very organic, yeah, definitely. Very spontaneous. And then this is actually something that's quite interesting about this museum, is how it's interacting with the landscape that it's building. And it's something when we eventually move to another building and we build a new museum that's bigger, this is something that we want to include in that as well. That's this kind of transparency towards the landscape.
Yeah, it is. It adds a nice touch to it.
And also the floors, of course. We are very known for our floors. It's just wooden bricks.
Yeah.
They're just
They're
positioned
really nice.
They're very nice, and they're positioned in sand, so they're all loose.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna ask if it was like a print, kind of, or if it's like real wood.
It's real wood. And these are the originals. They are soon going to be 40 years old, but still works. And then, as you can tell, there is sand between them, so they are really positioned in sand, and that helps to stabilize our climate.
Okay.
So although we have, it's quite an old building, we still have a very good climate here. Actually, we can control it rather well, because we have these floors that can absorb all the moisture.
Okay. Smart.
It's quite well thought of. This is the Kirkeby, this is the research library, the archive.
Okay.
We decided to arrange it like this because then researchers can sit in there. There's an office there, and it's still part of the exhibition. It's still part of the sort of.
Yeah, it's I said it's not hidden. It's so the open concept.
Yeah, we wanted to open it up a bit, and you can see that things are going on there all of the time, right?
Yeah.
So they're working. And this is actually, we can maybe just walk through here. That might be, oh yeah, okay. I haven't brought my key, so we can't actually. But that's our workshop space. We have a lot of workshops here, both for children and for grown-ups and for families and groups and what have you. So I did an exhibition in spring with Miro, the Spanish artist, and Asger Jorn. And I borrowed a lot of early works from Asger Jorn's production. So we had to, and they were usually positioned in here, so we had to recurate this space here, and we found some of the works from our collection that Jorn was very inspired of and that he also collected himself. So some of the oldest works in our collection, because we mostly have modernist art here, but Jorn was also interested in these very sort of symbolist, rather mysterious, mythical motifs of, among other, Johannes Holbeck here. So we found some of these again. They're quite interesting, these pieces, and quite avant-garde. They date all the way back to 1800 and the 1890s.
These are from they're all from the same artist.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could see. I saw this on the website, and I really like this painting.
Yeah, it's from 1902. It's also Johannes Holbeck.
It's the same guy.
It's the same guy. Yeah.
Isaias?
Yeah, it's the name of it. Isaias 4. So it's also linking on to a story from the Bible.
I really like this one.
It's quite amazing, right? Imagine to actually do a painting with this style here in Denmark during these years. It could have been, maybe maybe some French or Czech Art Nouveau, where it's very organic and completely free-spirited, some Alphonse Mucha or something. But this is in Denmark, and he's just giving it everything he has. It's completely.
Yeah, when I saw it, the picture is basically this, and it really reminded me of Klimt.
Yeah, definitely.
Like the inside, not the faces, but the.
No, but this idea of they're coming out of the matter somehow. They're growing out of the canvas, right?
Yeah.
Out of the abstraction comes the figure.
So fun, because nothing alike. And it's the same artist.
Yeah, he's quite amazing. Yes. It's actually becoming it became quite a popular exhibition, this one, actually, because of the storytelling in the motives.
Yeah,
it's quite advanced. So this is where we have our shop and our reception. We usually have small exhibitions in here. Right now we don't have it, but actually we have something that's quite rare here. I would like to show you. And it's one of the treasures from the collection here, and that's actually a book with cutouts and drawings and remarks and poems by H.C. Andersen.
Ah.
So it's an original. This is an original by Andersen.
Too bad you cannot see everything.
Yeah, we usually now the museum is closed, but we usually have it here. And then it's scanned. It's around 28 pages, 64 spreads, and then it's just going here on the screen next to it. But it's right now we have it up. We usually don't exhibit it much because it's very fragile, and it's we keep it in a dark box in the storages, right? Because we protect it because it's very, very rare, and it's really representing a significant cultural value.
Yeah.
So, but now that you're here, I thought you should see it because
it is nice. It is a nice touch.
It's quite peculiar, and it is H.C. Andersen, and of course he's also quite well known, and it just shows how this museum's collection is going in all sorts of different directions. So I'd like to show you this one now because it's quite one of a kind. So this year we tried out with a Christmas market. Actually, we wanted to do it last year because of the COVID-19 lockdown. We wanted to do something that was, bringing people together in a different way than what we usually do with exhibitions. And so we wanted to do this Christmas market, and then we initiated this collaboration with the Danish designer Jim Lyngvild, who is quite a controversial figure right now, and he's been doing some exhibitions also for cultural museums. He did a big exhibition about the Vikings at the National Museum in Copenhagen, and so we invited him to do this kind of a Christmas theme decoration here, where he's focusing on the birth of Christ, but he's doing it in a completely new way. So what he's really doing is he's trying to depict it as one of the largest commercial stunts in history. So the idea is really to show how it's being broadcasted, right? So the idea is we need a story, right? We have this good story about now God's Son is being born, and how can we broadcast it? So we have God up here with an iPhone in front of him, and of course we can't see God because it's God. And then we have all these different, telephones and typewriters and cameras and what have you, from the last 130 years, just like put together here. And we have all the stamps. He's a very important God, and he has all his servants, all the angels around him. And here there is a lot of details. We have the phone here, and we have the numbers. So there is like Gabriel, Michael, and then there is designer, marketing, etc. So it's really put together like that, like this media stunt. And here they are preparing Maria for the Mother Mary for the big event. And this is just after the birth which is also interesting because Maria's taking a selfie here on a phone, and of course it's the father who's holding the child because that's how it has to be today. And then over here we have this guy, and he's then holding the iPad with the actual image that she's taking over there. And then we have the three, what are they called, like the three kings that visits. And of course there's a woman between them because there always needs to be a woman in a board today. Mm-hmm. So he's kind of making it up to date today, modern, and that's where it's actually taking place, where she's actually being impregnated by the angel who's standing behind, and he's receiving information directly from God there, and there's this like declaration of having sex, which is something that came up in Denmark during the past couple of years, where there is like this kind of declaration you can sign before a sexual act.
Okay.
So that there's not like a rape afterwards, so everybody can say, well.
And this is a thing?
Yeah, it's the thing, yeah.
Oh my God.
It's the thing. So I don't think anybody is using it. I don't know actually, but I don't think people are really dealing much with it. But then it exists at least.
Yeah.
And then in the middle is the very cottage where it all took place. Built, and of course they're not there anymore because they're busy doing the SoMe stuff and can't linger on an episode like that, for long. They have to move on and do other things.
Yeah.
Because the social media has to be fed constantly. Yeah, so that is our Christmas decoration. It will be here until 22nd January. So, and it's been rather well visited, I'd say. So people are very interested in Jim Lyngvild.
Yeah, because this is very peculiar.
Very, very much, and his storytelling, and they also seem to. He has like this group of fans that's just driving around to follow his, to see what he's doing.
That's fun.
So we see a lot of new people at the museum right now. Mm-hmm. People that we have never seen before, and also new groups, which is very important, of course.
Do usually people come more than once, and like you kind of start to recognize?
Yes. Sometimes we of course have our friends here. You can say, right? We have the people who's supporting us and who's always here, and then we have new people depending on what kind of exhibition. So we made this exhibition in 2019 with some Banksy works as well, called Art Strikes Back, which was a very also it was quite an interesting exhibition with a lot of edge and many works that was really working with. I really work with more more critical approach to things, and at that exhibition, all high school classes in the municipality came to see it. And so that way we can see that it's catering. Our exhibitions are catering to different segments.
Yeah, of course. We hope you enjoyed this guided tour around Museum Jorn as much as we did. Thank you so much for staying with us, and see you next time.